We are we're here to talk about Second Kings chapter 3 and 4. Is that what we're talking about? This is my friend Joe McKinney. And Joe, some of you know Joe. And so if you're in the chat box, let us know you're out there. We are on Facebook. We are on the internet, ClarksvilleHighwayChurch.com, GospelChariot.com. So we're just going to have some fun talking through 2 Kings chapter 3 and 4. I am going to look and I will try to monitor the chat from Facebook. Jeff Henry's over there too. He's also going to be monitoring the chat. If you really have something I need to know, why don't you just text it to me? Because I can, I'll probably see that. And I was trying to see if we're actually live. And
yes, you are.
I'm not finding myself to be. Oh, there we go. We're live, so that's good. I'm going to open this so I can see the chat box. And look, there we are. Isn't that cool, Joe? All right, so hopefully you're out there, and we're going to talk through 2 Kings chapter 3 and 4. We're just going to cover some things for Bible Bowl. We're going to have a little quiz at the end. So hope you enjoy it. If you have any questions, just drop the questions in the chat box, either on the website or through Facebook. And I don't see them as often through Facebook, so maybe Jeff can help me with that. And I'll try to look occasionally and see if we have any. So if you're out there, hello, Joe Benson. And so we are going to look at 2 Kings chapter 3. So 2 Kings chapter 3, now Jehoram the son of Ahab became king over Israel at Samaria in the 18th year of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, and reigned 12 years. Now I want to know, if you're out there, do you see anything interesting about that verse compared to what we talked about last week? See if anybody picks up on it, Joe. But we have to wait like 30 seconds. So you have a joke you can tell them for 30 seconds?
No.
No joke? Okay. So I don't know if Daniel's out there yet. Daniel, if you are watching your grandpa, send me a message so I know you're out there. Hopefully Daniel's out there. When I find out he's out there, we're going to show him a trick. So if you haven't picked this up yet, hello, Coleman and Jeff. If you haven't picked this up, there was something that we read last week that looks a little bit contrary to this. And we're going to go back and look at it really quick. It's in chapter 1. And it says, because he had no son, Jehoram became king in his place in the second year of Jehoram, the son of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah. So in this passage, there is Jehoram becomes king in the second year of Jehoram, the son of Jehoshaphat. And if you go back to the verse we started with tonight, he becomes king in the 18th year of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah. And I want to point that out so that you can see that, so that when you're doing Bible Bowl, there's also another place we look in 2 Kings later on that's also going to talk about this same event that's going to give you kind of a different date. So I want you to be aware of it so you can recognize those two differences. And I will try to show you a little bit about that. I'm sorry I'm switching through a lot of different programs. But what I want you to see is on this timeline, if you look closely, this up here are in this area are the kings of Israel. And down here in this section are the kings of Judah. And if you look closely, Jehoshaphat and Jehoram had a time that they were co-kings. And so if you pull that up and you come up to Jehoram, who is king, you will see that there is one section here that all three kings overlap. And that's the area that we're talking about when we look at all of that. So if you're studying Bible Bowl, just make sure you understand that there's that difference there and that overlap. So when you get to those 3 verses, and we'll put them all together later, we're going to try to dissect and tell you everything about them right now. Right, Joe? We don't have time for that. But I just want you to know that they're there and how they work. So if we go back to our text, Jehoram, the son of Ahab, became king over Israel at Samaria in the 18th year of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, and reigned 12 years. Now, one other thing I wanted to point out, I was keeping the wrong button, sorry about that. Just quickly, one other thing I wanted to point out was just to kind of give you an idea of what is happening. When in this map, you can see several different kingdoms. All right, so this purple is the kingdom when Saul was king, and the green is the kingdom when David was king, and then Solomon added this section up here, so this is the kingdom when Solomon was king. But after Solomon died, the kingdom is split. You have 10 tribes who make up Israel, which is here, and 2 tribes which make up Judah, which is down here in this orange section. So in this section of 2 Kings, when we're going through all of this, one of the things you have to remember is that you have this divided kingdom going on. And so you'll have a king of Israel that will be here, and then you'll have a king of Judah. And when they talk about the switching of kings, they will date that either by who was king in Israel or who was king in Judah. So Jehoshaphat and Jehoram are king of Judah, and Jehoram, the son of Ahab, is king up here in Samaria. Did I do that okay, Joe?
I think I got it.
We good with that?
That's good.
All right. One thing I'm not good with is I closed my Bible program, so let me see if I can get that back up. Okay. So, and Jehoram, the king of, who was son of Ahab, was an evil king. He did evil, but not as much as his mom and dad did. So, anybody out there know who his mom and dad was? You can throw it in there, but it's bad to ask a question like that because then we have to wait 30 seconds before anybody can
It wasn't Ahab the Arab.
It wasn't. Oh, I like Ahab the Arab, though. Do you know that song?
Yeah.
Ahab the Arab, the sheik of the burning sand. He had emeralds and rubies just driven off him and a ring on every finger of his hand. You know, so anyway, he wasn't Ahab the Arab, but I did have a dog named Ahab once.
You did?
He was a great dog.
Was he evil or good?
He was a very good dog, very well trained. Coleman, hey, look, Jeff and Coleman got it right. Ahab and Jezebel, excellent. I'm gonna chalk that one up to Coleman.
Good.
Yeah, Coleman, you're a winner. You don't get a prize, but you're a winner. So, now there's another interesting thing in this text, and again, I don't want to go into all of the details because I don't think you want to hear it. But if you do, we'll come back to it later. It's about this Mesha, king of Moab. Mesha, king of Moab, is a very interesting individual because let me get down here and get to another slide. This is a picture of the Moabite stone, and it's actually just 3 pictures of the same stone from different angles, and it looks a little different, but that's the Moabite stone. The interesting thing about the Moabite stone, it's also called the Mesha stele. It is the longest record of something that happened outside of the Bible that was in the same time frame. And actually, the Moabite stone is written in the first person from Mesha, the king of Moab, about the conflicts that he had with the nations around him. And he talks a lot about his god, Shamash. And he also mentions some things about the line of David and some things that relate to the Bible. So the things that are happening in 2 Kings chapter 3 are the same things that are recorded from a different perspective on the Moabite stone. And it's a very interesting archaeological discovery. Maybe someday we can go into that in a lot more detail.
In the stone on the right, what are the dark areas contrasted to the
right
light?
here?
Yes.
I think that's just where they were pulling the writing off of that. So this writing, if I can get up here where I can show people, this writing right here is just a better image of the writing that's right here. you can't hardly see it as well. Most of the characters are somewhat like Hebrew. You can see a little bit better on this one. I guess the lighting is what made it different. I don't know why they've got one that's, somebody may have done that. I think normally it's kind of this blackish color. But anyway, it's very interesting that in 2 Kings 3, you have Mesha, who is the king of Moab, who wrote in first person the things that happened on the Moabite stone, which I just think it's interesting for what it's worth, right?
Very interesting.
Very interesting.
Absolutely.
If you look up Moabite stone on the Google Moabite stone, you can read a lot about that. So Mesha is the king of Moab. He is a sheep breeder, and he generally pays 100,000 lambs and 100,000, the wool of 100,000 rams, which, I mean, that's a lot of money. So when King Ahab died, then Mesha, the king of Moab, revolted against King Jehoram of Israel. So King Jehoram went out and he mustered all of the troops, all of the men of Israel, and then he went to Jehoshaphat, who's king in Judah. Remember, got Israel up here, Judah down here. He goes to the king of Judah, and he asked if he would go with him to fight against Moab. And it's a cool answer. He said, "My people is your people, and my horses are your horses. And which way shall we go up?" Now, this is kind of interesting. If I can pull the map back up, they went. So this is Israel. This is Judah. Edom is going to go with them. The king of Edom joins them. So if he's in Samaria and he's going to fight against Moab, and instead of going this way, which seems to be the shortest way, they go through the wilderness of Edom and come around this way. And so after they have been out for 7 days, they run out of water. So after 7 days, they don't have any water. And the king of Israel says, well, God has called the 3 kings together to deliver us in the hand of Moab. And Jehoshaphat asked for a prophet. Hey, I'm doing all the talking. You want to talk? He said, "Is there no prophet in the land we can inquire of?" Hey, we're doing this together. So
yes, right. Okay. Keep on, brother.
Keep going, brother. So they say Elisha is there, and the description is interesting. He poured water on the hands of Elijah, which is just a way of saying he was his servant. He was the one who took care of him. So Jehoshaphat says, well, the word of the Lord is with Elisha. So the king of Israel and Jehoram and the king of Edom go down to see Elisha, and he looks at the king of Israel and says, "What have I got to do with you?" And it's an interesting phrase. The Hebrew phrase is "what to me and what to you," and what it means is, what do we have to do with each other? And you go to the prophets of your father and mother, which were the prophets of Baal, right? Because remember Elijah on Mount Carmel with the prophets of Baal,
400 of them,
right? So he said, "You go call on them." And if it wasn't for Jehoshaphat, who's the king of Judah, I wouldn't even look at you. That's pretty strong. I wouldn't look at you. Wouldn't even see you. And this, I think, is really interesting. I'm going to highlight this verse, and I'm not going to make too much out of it, but I just want you to think about it. Go out and study this verse. Then it happened when the musician played. He asked for a musician. And when the musician played, that the hand of the Lord came on him. Do you remember Saul when he went down and the prophets were playing? When the Spirit came upon him and he prophesied. And then Deborah prophesied, and she was singing the song of Deborah. And Miriam prophesied, but she was singing the song of Miriam. I just think there's an interesting connection. I haven't studied it enough to know if there's really a connection, but it's interesting that there's a musician involved. So
I never noticed that.
Oh, well, I don't know what to make out of it. I just think it's really interesting, and it's one of those things I'm going to sit down at some time and study, and just the word about prophecy, and it kind of has a musical element to it too, and I don't know what to make out of it. I just think it's interesting. Just highlight that verse. It's just kind of cool, and study that. find out what I think about that, we'll have another live stream.
Right.
Oh, so, and they're supposed to make the valley full of ditches. And he said, you won't see wind, you won't see rain, but in the morning, the valley will be filled with water and everybody can drink. And at the time of the morning sacrifice, and also when it says, this is a really cool verse right here. And this is a simple matter in the sight of the Lord. And how many times in life do we think that there is something that is just so incredible or so big, or that's just a problem that nobody can solve? And I think, Joe, a lot of times God is just saying, well, that's just a simple matter for God. Just an easy thing for me to do.
In Brazil, we would say that's small coffee.
Small coffee.
Yeah, café pequeno.
Oh, cool. Why do you say that again?
Café pequeno.
Café
Pequeno.
pequeno.
Small coffee.
Café pequeno.
Yeah, it's easy. For God, it's simple. It's for us, it's just a brain teaser, drives us crazy. But that's small stuff for God.
That's cool. Café pequeno.
Yeah, it's a small coffee.
Hey, this is going to be one of my sayings. Café pequeno. They'll hear that on Sunday morning at Clarksville Highway. They think of you. Café pequeno. So it's small coffee. Yeah, so whatever you want to call it, it's just that so many times in life, things that we try to orchestrate or put together or make fit a certain way. Can't figure out or try to make happen a certain way, try to inflict our will on something. And God is just saying, you know what? That is a simple matter for God. And there are a couple of times in Scripture where he says something very, very similar to that. And so I would tell you today that no matter what you're going through, that for God, it might just be a simple matter. So you trust God, you give it to him, and you let God take care of it. And you watch for his guidance, and you pray, and you meditate, and you spend time looking for his direction, and you let him lead.
This is an enemy that was too big for the three kings.
Right. Well, the enemy, and then also they don't have anything to drink. They don't have any water. Now, maybe that was poor planning. I don't know. Maybe it was poor planning on their part. Maybe they shouldn't have gone the way of Edom, right, through the wilderness of Edom. But anyway, he said it's a simple matter. God will deliver the Moabites into your hand, and you attack every fortified city, cut down every good tree. And I think this is run every good piece of land with stones. I just think that's interesting. So it happened in the morning. And I just want to point this out just quickly. When the grain offering was offered, that's not that they were, I don't think, offering the grain offering out in the battlefield. It's the time that the grain offering would have been offered in Jerusalem, which first thing in the morning. Okay, so the water came by the way of Edom. The land's filled with water. The Moabites see the sun come up and the sun shining on the water. They think it's blood. So they think the king of Israel and the king of Judah and the king of Edom all went to war with each other and killed each other. So they said the spoil to Moab. And so they attacked the camp. But when they attacked the camp, Israel rose up, attacked the Moabites, and they fled and they destroyed the cities. And we're back here. And each man threw a stone on every piece of good land and filled it up. I just think that's interesting. And they stopped all the springs of water. But they left Kir Hareseth intact. And that would have been what is considered the capital of Moab. So the capital city, they didn't destroy. And it's probably because of what happens in this next chapter. The king of Moab, Mesha, took his eldest son, who would have reigned in his place, and offered him as a burnt offering on the wall. And there was great indignation against Israel. I'm sure he did that to appease his god Chemosh, which one of the things that they would do would be human sacrifice. And so, I think, I don't really know how to interpret the great indignation. Does it mean that the Moabites fought harder because he tried to appease the god, or because he saw the greatness of the sacrifice that he offered? It probably is more likely that it was so repulsive to the Israelites to sacrifice somebody like that for whatever reason they departed and returned to their own land, and they did not destroy Kir Hariseth. So anybody's got any comments on that, I'd be glad to hear them. It's a very tough verse. All right, so that's chapter 3. Chapter 4. A certain woman of the wives of the prophets had a husband, and her husband died. She had 2 sons. So the creditor was coming to take the 2 sons to be slaves. And she cried out to Elisha, and he said, "What shall I do for you?" And he said, "What do you have in the house?" And she said, "Well, I have a jar of oil." And he told her, "Go out and borrow vessels from everywhere, from all of your neighbors, borrow empty vessels, and don't gather just a few." So she's supposed to get a whole bunch, right, Joe? So, and then you go in and you shut the door behind you, and you pour your oil into all of those vessels. So she did that. She went out and she got empty vessels, empty jars. She brought them inside. She shut the door. She started pouring them. Her sons were bringing them to her. I don't know if they were all in the house or out. I don't know how they were doing all that. But they kept bringing jars. And as long as she had an empty jar, there was oil. But as soon as she filled up the last vessel and she said, "Bring me another vessel," then they told her that, well, there's not another vessel, and the oil stopped. And she went to Elisha and said, "What do I do now?" And he said, "Well, you take it and you sell it, you pay your creditors, and you and your sons can live on the rest." And the thing that I think is very interesting about that, I got a little slide here. If I get there, is that God provided in the amount of her faith, and I think that's a really great lesson. So write that down. So Joe and I were just talking earlier about that, and here was my question: wouldn't it have been a shame if she had only got 1 jar?
Yeah, and being content with that.
And being content with that. So God blessed her as much as she allowed God to bless her. And I don't know what to make of that. Maybe you can help me with that. But I mean, sometimes we put ourselves in positions and we try to take control, and we don't let God bless us as much as we get in the way. And she didn't get in the way. She did,
But did she control how many neighbors
No.
loaned her vessels?
Yeah, but she could control how many people she asked. Because he told her to go out and ask for them, go borrow them. So, and I wonder how that worked. I wonder if people brought her vessels because they knew she was looking for them, or she had to go ask everybody. It doesn't say. It's just kind of interesting to think about.
The neighbors got to participate in the blessing that she received.
That's a good point. Good job, Joe. So we get to do that, right? We get to participate in the blessings with other people. I just think that's a really interesting verse and the way that worked. Got something else? Are we afraid of leaving God in control? I think sometimes we are. That's a pretty good point somebody put out on the chat. Sometimes I think, the problem with leaving God in control is if God's in control, you're not.
It sounds crazy. Are we afraid of leaving God in control, as if we had that power to leave Him in control?
Because He's in control.
And in some way we are, because it's an act of our will. What are we willing to expect from God?
Or accept. That's good. Hey, those are all good points. That's why we do this, right? All right, so now we have Elisha with the Shunammite woman. And hey, we're going to have a quiz here in a few minutes too, so get ready for that. Did she tell her neighbors why she needed the jars? I have no idea. That was something from the chat box. It doesn't say that she told them, but I'm assuming she would have. I don't know. Don't know if she told them or not. Doesn't say. So in Shunem, he meets and it's interesting, the New King James says a notable woman. The word is a great woman, but then you got to figure out, okay, what is a great woman? So she's notable. I think the translation Joe was reading said she was rich. Wealthy, well-to-do. Another one had another word. It wasn't well-to-do. What it had, I don't remember. It had, sometimes I can't remember all the different versions I read. It didn't have what, I think wealthy is what it, one had well-to-do, one had wealthy. She was a great woman. She persuaded Elisha to get something to eat, so that's what she persuaded him to eat some food. So when he came by, he would eat food at her house. So she asked her husband, I know he's a holy man of God, so why don't we build him a room? So they built him a room
on the roof,
up on the wall, an upper room. You know, we showed a picture of one of those a couple of weeks ago. If you were watching, it kind of had a cover how the upper room worked in those houses. And so when he comes to us, he can stay there. So one day he's there and he's in the upper room and he's lying down and he calls in Gehazi, his servant. This is the first time Gehazi is mentioned, and calls the Shunammite woman, prominent woman. Yeah, that's what the other version said. And thank you, Jeff. And so look, you've been really concerned about us. You provided this nice place. What do you want me to do with you? And it's kind of interesting, Joe. He says, do you want me to speak to the king or to the commander of the army? And she says, well, I dwell among my own people. And so he said, what can be done for her? And Gehazi said, she has no children and her husband is old. You know, and if you haven't picked up on it yet, that's a pretty common thing in the Bible. No son and the husband's old. Abraham. Elizabeth, and is it Zechariah with John the Baptist? What's John the Baptist's dad's name? Somebody text that. That was Zechariah, wasn't it? Okay. So she has no son and her husband is old, and so he calls her and he says, about this time next year you'll embrace a son. And she said, you know, don't lie to your maidservant. But she conceived and she had a son, and so when the appointed time came and the child grew up, one day he went out to the field with his dad and he said, my head, my head. I don't know what happened. Doesn't say what happened. He just said, my head, right? So he said to his servant, carry him to his mom. So he took them to his mother. She went up, laid him on Elisha's bed, right? She took him to the upper room and laid him on Elisha's bed, the bed of the man of God. And well, when he first came in, he sat on her knees until noon when he died, and then she laid him on the bed of the man of God, shut the door, went to her husband and said, please send me one of the young men and one of the donkeys, and I may go to the man of God and come back. And it's interesting, Joe, so that the husband said, why are you going to him today? It is neither the new moon or the Sabbath. I don't really know what to make of that. Did he know the boy died?
Surely so.
I would think so,
Yeah.
but it's just interesting. He says, well, it's not the new moon or the Sabbath. I'd have to research that to kind of see what that was all about. Okay, not a day of worship, but we're going anyway.
But she's going to the man of God.
But she's going to the man of God. So she saddled the donkey and she said, basically, you go
and don't stop.
And don't stop. Don't slow down unless I tell you to.
Right.
And let me go back to our map just a second. I want you to see something. So if we kind of zoom in, Shunem is right here. So if I zoom in on Shunem, which is right there, she has to go from Shunem to Mount Carmel because that's where Elisha is. And I think it's interesting that Elisha is where Elijah defeated the prophets of Baal. And there was one other time that he was on Mount Carmel. He went there right after Elijah was taken up to heaven. He retraced his steps and went to Mount Carmel. But anyway, she has to make that journey. And I know somebody's going to ask me how far that is, and I have no idea. I have no idea how far that is.
That far?
Yeah. Joe says it's right there. So you went that far. So he, let me get back to my Bible. So she goes to the man of God, and Elisha sees her from a distance and says, look, it's the Shunammite woman. Now run and meet her and ask her if everybody's okay. You know, is it well with you? Is it well with your husband? Is it well with your child? And she said, it's well. She said, shalom. She said, peace. But then when she came to the man of God, she caught him by the feet, and Gehazi he's going to push her away. And Elisha says, leave her alone. Her soul's in deep distress, and the Lord has hidden it from me and has not told me, which I think is interesting, that God did not reveal to Elisha what had happened. And so she said, did I ask for a son? And didn't I say, don't deceive me? And so Gehazi, he tells to Gehazi to get himself ready, take his staff, and don't greet anybody. Don't if anybody greets you, don't answer. So don't stop. Lay my staff on the face of the child. And the mother says, I won't leave you. And so Gehazi went on ahead of him, but the child didn't respond. So Elisha comes into the house, and the child is laying on the bed. He lays on top of him. He says he lays mouth to mouth and hand to hand. I was trying to remember all the things that it says: eyes to eyes, mouth to mouth, and hand to hand. He stretched himself out on the child, which makes me believe he's not too small, right? Like maybe
he was old enough to go and work with his dad.
Yeah. So maybe a teenager. I don't know. Used to, I would read this and I think a little bitty kid.
Wasn't a baby, no.
Yeah, but must not have been. I mean, if he does that, and
the child sneezed 7 times.
Well, he started to become warm. So it says after he started to become warm, Elisha gets up and he paces back and forth in the room, and I don't even know what that's about. He said he returned and walked back and forth in the house. I just think it's interesting. I don't know what to make out of it. Just, it's like...
Went back up again and lay down again.
So he goes back and he lays down on top of him again. The child sneezed 7 times. He calls his mom. The mom comes up and he tells the Shunammite woman, pick up your son. And she fell at his feet actually the word is the word for worship, but it means here she bowed to the ground and picked up her son and went out. So after that, he goes back to Gilgal. She goes from Shunem to Mount Carmel to get him. He comes from Carmel to Shunem, and then he goes from Shunem back down to Gilgal. And so when he goes back down there, the prophets or the sons of the prophets are there, and he tells Gehazi to put a large pot and boil stew for the prophet. So one of the prophets goes out and he finds a vine, and there's a gourd on the vine, and he picks the gourds. He comes back, he slices them up, and he puts them in the pot. And we were trying to figure out what it could have been. What kind of thing was the gourd? And Jeff, what kind of stuff did you come up with?
Watermelon, cucumber.
Yeah. So I don't have any idea what this was. But as they were eating the stew, they cried out, "Man of God, there is death in the pot." Which I also think is interesting because it doesn't say anybody died. But you kind of assume somebody died. Or how would you know there's death in the pot? Maybe it just made somebody sick?
At least that.
we don't really know. We just have the text, and that's what the text says. So Elisha says, bring some flour. He brings it, puts it in the pot, and then they serve it to the people, and it's fine because Elisha put flour in it. So a miracle. We don't think there's anything special. What did you say about flour earlier? Flour was...
I thought flour was non-acidic, and maybe somehow the flour caused the stew to be non-acidic.
Okay. I have no idea, but it sounds good. I like it.
Well, we don't know, do we?
We'll chalk that up. That's one for Joe. Yeah, we'll chalk that up. So the last story in chapter 4, there came a man from Baal Shalishah, and nobody really knows where Baal Shalishah was that I can find. And he brought some first fruits, which was 20 loaves of barley bread and newly ripened grain, and he gave it to the people. He said, give it to the people that they'll eat. And his servant said, what, shall I set this before 100 men? And Elisha said, give it to the people that they may eat, and they shall eat and have some left over. And I think it's interesting that raising the Shunammite woman's son is very similar to Jairus when he raised Jairus' daughter, Jesus when he raised Jairus' daughter. And this story is very similar to when Jesus fed the 4,000 and 5,000. Is that right? When it 4,000 and 5,000? Mm-hmm. And I think it's really interesting that what Elisha is doing kind of matches up. It's reflected in the ministry of Jesus later. So that kind of covered 4 and 5 really quick. Sorry about that, but we're kind of doing this for Bible Bowl. But we have some questions. But before we have questions, I need to tell you, there is a game online that you can do later if you go to Kahoot.it. All right, and write down this PIN number 099433059. These questions that we're getting ready to ask you are under that PIN number on Kahoot.it if you want to play the game later or if you just want to practice. So if you're in Bible Bowl and you want to practice, I think it'll be up for, how long will it be there, Jeff?
At least a week.
At least a week. So if you want to practice that, and we'll put that pin up at the end again. So Joe is going to answer all of these questions for us. No, I'm just kidding. Oh, wait a minute. Did Daniel ever show up? Daniel, are you out there? Can you chat? You got your phone with you? You have your phone?
No.
Oh, okay. We can't send you a message. Daniel, if you're out there, I was going to show you a trick. Watch this.
Daniel Hagley.
I can make your grandfather disappear. I wanted you to see this. This is my invisible cloak. And watch this. Watch what I can do. Here, let's make you, well, can I make you bigger and do this? Watch this. Watch what I can. Joe wanted to be in Brazil on the beach, so that's why we did that. So, Daniel, watch this. I can make him disappear. That's my invisible cloak. Then I can bring him back. We thought you'd want to see that. See, gone, back, gone, back. So, all right, first question. Sorry about that. We're just having some fun. All right, so here we go. First question. Oh, sorry about that. Wrong thing. 1 Kings chapter 3, verse 9. What king joined the king of Israel and the king of Judah to fight Moab? A, the king of Egypt. B, the king of Edom. C, the king of Syria. 2 Kings chapter 3, verse 9. What king joined the king of Israel and the king of Judah to fight Moab? Joe McKinney says it is the king of Edom. So he's exactly right.
Where's the cards?
B. I don't know where our cards are. I've got a blue one. I lost one evidently. Oh no, here they are. Here you go, Joe. A, B, and C. All right. So now Joe has cards. He's going to answer with A, B, or C. He tried to move us over to this side. Now don't give him the answer away early, Joe. All right, second question. 2 Kings chapter 3, verse 4. Mesha, king of Moab, was A, sheep breeder. B, blacksmith. C, goat herder. You gotta wait till I say time. 2 Kings chapter 3, verse 4. Mesha, king of Moab, was A, sheep breeder. B, blacksmith. C, goat herder. Time. Correct answer is A, sheep breeder. Good job, Joe. All right. Question number 3. 2 Kings chapter 3, verse 5. When Ahab died, the king of Moab rebelled against A, the king of Babylon. B, the king of Persia. C, the king of Israel. 2 Kings chapter 3, verse 5. When Ahab died, the king of Moab rebelled against A, the king of Babylon. B, the king of Persia. C, the king of Israel. Time. The answer is C, the king of Israel. Hey, you're on a roll. We should be keeping score. All right, next question. 2 Kings chapter 3, verse 9. When the kings of Israel, Judah, and Edom marched out for 7 days, what did they run out of? A, supplies. B, water. C, spears. 2 Kings chapter 3, verse 9. When the kings of Israel, Judah, and Edom marched out for 7 days, what did they run out of? A, supplies. B, water. C, spears. Time. Correct answer is B, water. Hey, you've read this before, haven't you?
Yeah.
2 Kings chapter 3, verse 12. When the kings of Israel, Judah, and Edom were afraid of Moab and wanted to inquire of the Lord, who did they ask? A, Elisha, the son of Zaphat. B, Baal-zebub. Or C, the god of Ekron. 2 Kings chapter 3, verse 12. When the kings of Israel, Judah, and Edom were afraid of Moab and wanted to inquire of the Lord, who did they ask? A, Elisha, son of Zaphat. B, Baal-zebub. Or C, the god of Ekron.
I'm not sure, but I'm gonna guess.
Time. A. Elisha, the son of Zaphat.
I thought it was
Shaphat.
Baal-zebub.
I don't think so, but we'll go back and check. We'll make sure. No, they asked. Now, they did it in a different chapter.
Oh,
In a different chapter, they asked Baal.
sorry.
Go grandpa to the cloak. That's good. All right. 2 Kings chapter 3 verse 14. It was because of this man that Elisha said he would answer the kings, inquire of the Lord for them. A. Necho, king of Egypt. B. Mesha, king of Moab. C. Jehoshaphat, king of Judah. 2 Kings chapter 3 verse 14. It was because of this man that Elisha said he would answer the kings and inquire of the Lord for them. A. Necho, king of Egypt. B. Mesha, king of Moab. C. Jehoshaphat, king of Judah. Time. The answer is C. Jehoshaphat, king of Judah. Cool. So we could, maybe we'll send you home with that invisible cloak and they'll never know when you're watching them. 2 Kings chapter 3 verse 8. Which way did Jehoram and Jehoshaphat go up against Moab? A. By way of the wilderness of Edom. B. By way of the spring of Siloam. C. By way of the desert of Syria. 2 Kings chapter 3 verse 8. Which way did Jehoram and Jehoshaphat go up against Moab? A. By way of the wilderness of Edom. B. By way of the spring of Siloam. C. By way of the desert of Syria. Time. A. By the way of the wilderness of Edom. Hey, you're back on a roll again, Joe.
Okay.
2 Kings chapter 3 verse 16. When the musician played, the hand of the Lord was on Elisha, and he told the three kings to do what? A. Destroy the cities of Moab. B. Make a grain offering to the Lord. C. Make this valley full of ditches. 2 Kings chapter 3 verse 16. When the musician played, the hand of the Lord was on Elisha, and he told the three kings to do what? A. Destroy the cities of Moab. B. Make a grain offering to the Lord. C. Make this valley full of ditches. Time. Correct answer is C. Make this valley full of ditches. 2 Kings chapter 3 verse 19. Elisha told the kings to cut down every good tree, stop up every spring of water, and A. Ruin every good piece of land with stones. B. Fill every ditch with blood. C. Destroy every city with a sword. 2 Kings chapter 3 verse 19. Elisha told the kings to cut down every good tree, stop up every spring of water, and A. Ruin every good piece of land with stones. B. Fill every ditch with blood. C. Destroy every city with the sword. Time. Correct answer is A. Ruin every good piece of land with stones. They were watching really close. They got, well, no, they're 30 seconds behind, so they wouldn't have seen that card anyway. All right.
Oh, did it?
Oh, yeah, they did. But 2 Kings chapter 3 verse 22. When the Moabites saw the sun shining on the water in the camp of Israel, what did they think it was? A. Springs of fresh water. B. Glass. C. Blood. 2 Kings chapter 3 verse 22. When the Moabites saw the sun shining on the water in the camp of Israel, what did they think it was? A. Springs of fresh water. B. Glass. C. Blood. Time. Correct answer
You
is
wait
C.
for-
Blood. No.
Huh?
No, you weren't supposed to wait. You're good.
Oh, okay.
I thought you were waiting to see what the right answer
No,
was.
I was waiting so I could raise the answer.
Yes, when I say time, you can raise the answer.
Okay, great.
All right. 2 Kings chapter 3 verse 26. We should have kept scores and anybody score better than Joe. What did the king of Moab take with him when he saw the battle was too fierce for him? Ooh, I don't know that we covered this. A. 700 slingers with rocks. B. 700 horses with riders. C. 700 men who drew swords. 2 Kings chapter 3 verse 26. What did the king of Moab take with him when he saw the battle was too fierce for him? A. 700 slingers with rocks. B. 700 horses with riders. C, 700 men who drew swords. Time.
Can I guess?
Yeah, you can guess. 700 men who drew swords. Good job.
Good guess.
Good guess. 2 Kings chapter 3 verse 27. What offering did the king of Moab make upon the wall? A, the grain offering. B, his eldest son. C, the blood of 2 bulls. 2 Kings chapter 3 verse 27. What offering did the king of Moab make on the wall? A, the grain offering. B, his eldest son. C, the blood of 2 bulls. Time. Correct answer is B, his eldest son. 2 Kings chapter 4 verse 1. After a certain woman's husband died, the creditor was coming to take her 2 sons for what? A, to sell them. B, to be his slaves. C, to educate them. 2 Kings chapter 4 verse 1. After a certain woman's husband died, the creditor was coming to take her 2 sons for what? A, to sell them. B, to be his slaves. C, to educate them. Time. Correct answer is B, to be his slaves. Oh, that was kind of cool. Hold that one up again so you can kind of see through it if you hold it at the right angle. It kind of goes through. So, all right. The widow with 2 sons asked for Elisha's help. He told her to do what? A, borrow empty vessels. B, make a sacrifice to the Lord. C, press pure olive oil. The widow with 2 sons asked for Elisha's help. He told her to do what? A, borrow empty vessels. B, make a sacrifice to the Lord. C, press pure olive oil. Time. Correct answer is A, borrow empty vessels. Well, you missed one. Is that right? Only one? 2 Kings chapter 4 verse 6. When did the widow's oil cease or run out? A, when there were no more vessels. B, when Elisha called on the Lord. C, when the sun went down. 2 Kings chapter 4 verse 6. When did the widow's oil cease to run out? A, when there were no more vessels. B, when Elisha called on the Lord. C, when the sun went down. Time. Correct answer is A, when there were no more vessels. 2 Kings chapter 4 verse 21. When the Shunammite woman's son died, where did she lay him? A, on his father's lap. B, on the altar at Mount Carmel. C, on the bed of the man of God. 2 Kings chapter 4 verse 21. When the Shunammite woman's son died, where did she lay him? A, on his father's lap. B, on the altar at Mount Carmel. C, on the bed of the man of God. Time. Correct answer is C, on the bed of the man of God. 2 Kings chapter 4 verse 8. What did the notable woman from Shunem persuade Elisha to do? A, bless her home. B, heal her husband. C, eat some food. 2 Kings chapter 4 verse 8. What did the notable woman from Shunem persuade Elisha to do? A, bless her home. B, heal her husband. C, eat some food. Time. Correct answer is C, eat some food. 2 Kings chapter 4 verse 9. The woman from Shunem made a small upper room for Elisha to stay in because she knew he was A, holy man of God. B, a prophet from Beersheba. C, a teacher of Elijah. 2 Kings chapter 4 verse 9. The woman from Shunem made a small upper room for Elisha to stay in because she knew he was A, holy man of God. B, a prophet from Beersheba. C, a teacher of Elijah. Time. Correct answer is A, holy man of God. 2 Kings chapter 4 verse 14. When Elisha asked his servant Gehazi how he could help this Shunammite woman, how did Gehazi answer him? A, she has no furniture for her home. B, she has no son and her husband is old. C, she has no food for her family. 2 Kings chapter 4 verse 14. When Elisha asked his servant Gehazi how he could help the Shunammite woman, how did Gehazi answer him? A. She has no furniture for her home. B. She has no son and her husband is old. C. She has no food for her family. Time. Correct answer is B. She has no son and her husband is old. 2 Kings chapter 4 verse 29. When the Shunammite's son died, Elisha sent Gehazi to A. Greet those in the house of the child. B. Lay his hands on the head of the child. C. Lay his staff on the face of the child. Did we cover that? 2 Kings chapter 4 verse 29.
I don't think we did, but maybe we did.
Maybe. When the Shunammite son died, Elisha sent Gehazi to A. Greet those in the house of the child. B. Lay his hands on the head of the child. C. Lay his staff on the face of the child. Time. Correct answer is C. Lay his staff on the face of the child. Hey, you're a Bible Bowl expert. 2 Kings chapter 4 verse 35. When Elisha prayed to the Lord and stretched himself out on the child opened his eyes and did what? A. Hugged his mother. B. Bowed down to Elisha. C. Sneezed 7 times. 2 Kings chapter 4 verse 35. When Elisha prayed to the Lord and stretched himself out on the child opened his eyes and did what? A. Hugged his mother. B. Bowed down to Elisha. C. Sneezed 7 times. Time. Correct answer is C. Sneezed 7 times. You've only missed one.
That's too bad.
Okay. 3 to go. 2 Kings chapter 4 verse 38. Elisha told his servant to do this for the sons of the prophets in Gilgal. A. Boil stew in a large pot. B. Give to them the word of the Lord. C. Ask God to stop the famine. 2 Kings chapter 4 verse 38. Elisha told his servant to do this for the sons of the prophets in Gilgal. A. Boil stew and give to them the word of the Lord. C. Ask God to stop the famine. Time. The answer is A. Boil stew in a large pot. 2 Kings chapter 4 verse 39. What was sliced into the pot of stew for the sons of the prophets in Gilgal? A. Wild onion. B. Wild gourd. C. Fresh beans. 2 Kings chapter 4 verse 39. What was sliced into the pot of stew for the sons of the prophets in Gilgal? A. Wild onion. B. Wild gourd. C. Fresh beans. Time. The answer is B. Wild gourd. Although the fresh beans sound kind of good.
How about some onions?
fresh beans with onion. That would be good. And maybe some cornbread. 2 Kings chapter 4 verse 41. What was put into the pot so it would not be harmful and there would be no death in the pot? A. Flour. B. Oil. C. Herbs. 2 Kings chapter 4 verse 41. What was put into the pot so it would not be harmful and there would be no death in the pot? A. Flour. B. Oil. C. Herbs. Time. Correct answer is A. Flour. 2 Kings chapter 4 verse 42. What did the man from Baal Shalishah bring to the man of God? A. Bread of the first fruits. B. Grain for the grain offering. C. Wine for the new moon. 2 Kings chapter 4 verse 42. What did the man from Baal Shalishah bring to the man of God? A. Bread of the first fruits. B. Grain for the grain offering. C. Wine for the new moon. Time. Correct answer is A. Bread of the first fruits. Joe, you missed the last one.
Did I?
Yeah, it's bread.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. All right.
I missed 2 total.
You missed 2 total. That's all right. So if you want to play that game again or you want to review that, again, go to Kahoot.it, put that PIN number in, and the game will pop up. And And if you can't remember that, go back to this on this live stream on Facebook or the website, and you can pull it back up there. So,
can I take it again when I get home?
yes, you can take it again. If you take it again when you get home, you know the two you got wrong, then you get them all right.
Oh, well,
Maybe.
maybe I won't do it again.
Well, you should. You should. All right. So, you have any closing thoughts? We're right on time. We have 5 minutes till 8 o'clock.
Hey, I still have this. I'm impressed by the fact that, Elisha was given twice the spirit of Elijah, which we'll find out that he did twice the number of miracles in his life. And all of his miracles weren't to impress people, weren't for his own benefit. It was to help somebody.
Yeah. That's a good point. They pick that out as they go through. He did a great job with that. Hey, that reminded me, I had another trivia question I forgot. And I was going to ask, but I can't do it now because it'll take 30 seconds for you to give me an answer. Does anybody know the 3 people in the Old Testament that were raised from the dead? The Shunammite woman's son was one. Anybody remember the other ones? Anybody out there? We'll give them 30 seconds and see if they... So, 3 people raised from the dead in the Old Testament. One with the Shunammite woman's son that we covered tonight. Does anybody remember who the other 2 are? Throw it in the chat box if you remember who they are. We'll give you a minute. We'll make Joe disappear again, and then we'll give you a minute. Look, we can... Uh-oh. My invisible cloak was gone. See? Cover you up again. See, I can disappear.
Where'd you go?
All right, so anybody remember? I'm not getting any answers. You get any answers over there, Jeff?
Got a message for Grandpa though.
Oh, we got a message for Grandpa. Here we go. You see that?
No, where is
It says, "We love you,
We love
Grandpa."
your grandpa. Sabrina, Nicholas, Matthias, Lucas, Daniel, and Dylan.
Well, tell them you love them back or
Oh, I
something.
love all you guys.
All right. Anybody get the answer? So I've got no response. One, Elijah raised a boy. So Elijah raised a boy. Then the Shunammite woman's son, and the third was the man that they threw into the grave of Elisha, and he touched his bones, and he came back to life. Remember, he died, and so those were the 3. Oh well, that was my last trivia question.
Good question. Good
All right, so thanks for joining us. Jeff is going to be teaching next week, maybe with me, maybe with somebody else. He's working that out. And he will cover 2 Kings chapters 5 and 6. So be reading those, getting ready for those. We'll try to get some quizzes and things out there for you to do too. And we'll try to make maybe some more Kahoot quizzes or something you can practice on. Hope you enjoyed it. We enjoyed being here. Hope you learned something. And I hope you have a good week. So we're going to sign off.